We're not soldiers, I always say, we're wolves. But it was more than just a saying to us. We were the war wolves, the Terran Republic's most elite and feared special forces unit. Genetically enhanced, cybernetically augmented, and trained to be the deadliest predators on the battlefield. We were born in the labs, raised in the barracks, and honed on countless simulated battlefields. Our DNA was spliced with that of wolves, granting us heightened senses, superior strength, and an unyielding pack mentality. Cybernetic implants enhanced our reflexes, amplified our senses, and gave us a direct neural link to the battlefield network. Years of grueling training instilled in us an unwavering discipline, a ruthless efficiency, and an unbreakable bond with our pack. We were more than just comrades, we were brothers, bound together by a shared purpose and a fierce loyalty. But that was before the Xenocide. The Xenocide was a turning point, a moment that forever scarred us and redefined our purpose. We were deployed to the planet Tartarus, a remote outpost on the fringes of Terran space, to investigate reports of a xenomorph infestation. What we found was far worse than we could have ever imagined. The entire colony had been overrun, its inhabitants slaughtered and their bodies mutated into grotesque, monstrous forms. The xenomorphs, those insidious, parasitic creatures, had transformed the once thriving colony into a nightmarish hellscape. We fought our way through the infested colony, our weapons blazing, our fangs bared. We slaughtered countless xenomorphs, our fury fueled by the carnage we witnessed. But it wasn't enough. The infestation was too widespread, the xenomorphs too numerous. In the end, we were forced to make a desperate decision. We activated the colony's self-destruct sequence, a last-ditch effort to contain the infestation and prevent it from spreading. We escaped the doomed colony, our hearts heavy with the weight of our failure. But our ordeal was far from over. The xenomorphs had followed us, their insatiable hunger driving them to pursue us across the galaxy. We fought them on countless worlds, our ranks dwindling with each battle. We lost brothers, friends, family. But we never gave up. We were war wolves, and we would fight to the bitter end. The Xenocide had hardened us, turned us into cold, calculating killing machines. We embraced our wolfish nature, our primal instincts guiding us on the battlefield. We became the predators, the hunters, the bringers of death. We were feared by our enemies, revered by our allies. We were the war wolves, and we were the Terran Republic's last line of defense against the xenomorph threat. It was on the icy plains of Xanta Prime that the tide began to turn. The xenomorphs had launched a full-scale invasion, their hordes swarming over the frozen wastes, their bioships blotting out the sun. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. Our lines were crumbling, our morale faltering. It seemed like the end was near. But then the order came. Release the wolves, the High Command's voice boomed through our calms, its tone a chilling mix of desperation and anticipation. A thrill of excitement ran through me, a primal anticipation that made my blood sing. This was it. This was what we had been bred for, what we had been trained for. We unleashed hell. Our drop pods streaked through the atmosphere, burning like meteors as they descended towards the xenomorph hordes. We hit the ground running, our weapons spitting fire, our claws tearing through chitinous flesh. The xenomorphs were taken completely by surprise. They had never encountered anything like us before. We were faster, stronger, more ferocious. We tore through their ranks like a whirlwind of death, our howls echoing across the battlefield. Our genetically enhanced senses allowed us to see through the blizzard, to track the xenomorphs by their heat signatures and pheromone trails. Our cybernetic implants gave us an unparalleled situational awareness, allowing us to anticipate their movements and counter their attacks. We fought with a ferocity that bordered on madness, our primal instincts taking over. We ripped and tore, our fangs sinking into xenomorph flesh, our claws rending their bodies asunder. We were a pack of wolves, hunting our prey with ruthless efficiency. The xenomorphs were terrified. Their usual tactics, their swarming assaults and overwhelming numbers, were useless against us. We were too fast, too agile, too deadly. We turned the tide of the battle. The xenomorphs, once so confident in their victory, were now in disarray. Their lines crumbled, their morale shattered. They were being hunted, and they knew it. But we didn't stop there. We pursued them relentlessly, harrying them across the frozen wastes. We destroyed their bioships, slaughtered their warriors, and disrupted their command structure. We turned their invasion into a rout. The Battle of Xanta Prime was a turning point in the war. It was the first time the xenomorphs had been truly defeated, the first time they had encountered a force that could match their ferocity and overcome their numbers. It was also the moment that the war wolves truly came into their own. We had proven our worth, our superiority. We had become the apex predators of the battlefield. But our victory came at a cost. We had lost many brothers on Xanta Prime, their blood staining the frozen ground. But their sacrifice was not in vain. They had bought us time to regroup, to rebuild, to prepare for the next battle. And there would be more battles. The xenomorphs were not easily defeated. They would return, their hunger for conquest undiminished. But we would be ready for them. We were the war wolves, and we would fight to the bitter end. We would hunt them down, one planet at a time, until the galaxy was free of their menace. The aftermath of Xanta Prime brought a brief respite, a chance to lick our wounds and regroup. But the calm was deceptive, a lull before the storm. The xenomorphs, stung by their defeat, retreated into the shadows, regrouping and rethinking their strategy. We knew they would return, stronger and more cunning than before. We used the time to intensify our training, pushing ourselves to the limits of our physical and mental capabilities. We sparred with each other, honing our combat skills, and ran simulations, testing our tactical acumen. We also delved deeper into the xenomorph biology, studying their weaknesses and vulnerabilities, searching for any advantage we could find. But it wasn't just training that occupied our time. We also focused on recruitment, seeking out new blood to replenish our ranks. We scoured the Terran Republic, looking for individuals with the right genetic makeup and the necessary mental fortitude to join our pack. We found them in the most unlikely of places, in the slums of overcrowded cities, in the remote outposts of frontier worlds, in the ranks of hardened criminals and disillusioned veterans. We welcomed them into our fold, sharing with them our knowledge, our skills, our experiences. We molded them into war wolves, instilling in them our values, our discipline, our loyalty. Then the storm broke. The xenomorphs launched a series of coordinated attacks, striking multiple Terran worlds simultaneously. They had learned from their mistakes, adapted their tactics. They were no longer relying on overwhelming numbers, but on stealth, cunning, and surprise. They infiltrated our defenses, sabotaged our infrastructure, and sowed chaos and panic. They struck at our civilians, our families, our loved ones. They were trying to break our spirit, to shatter our resolve. But they underestimated us. They underestimated our resilience, our tenacity, our rage. We fought back with a vengeance, unleashing the full fury of the war wolves. We hunted them down, tracked them to their hidden nests, and eradicated them without mercy. We fought in the streets, in the sewers, in the skies. We fought with every weapon at our disposal, with claws and fangs, with guns and grenades, with fire and fury. And then came the twist. During a raid on a xenomorph stronghold, we discovered a shocking truth. The xenomorphs were not mindless beasts driven by instinct. They were intelligent, organized, and capable of strategic thinking. But that wasn't the most shocking part. We also discovered that they were not the originators of the xenocide. They were merely pawns, tools wielded by a far more sinister force. A force that lurked in the shadows, manipulating events from behind the scenes. A force that sought to plunge the galaxy into chaos and destruction. We had a new enemy, a far more dangerous and insidious enemy than the xenomorphs. And we were determined to expose it, to bring it down, to end its reign of terror. The war had just entered a new phase, a more dangerous and unpredictable phase. And the war wolves were ready to face it, head on. The revelation of a hidden enemy, a puppet master pulling the strings of the xenomorph hordes, sent shockwaves through the Terran Republic. It was a truth too horrifying to ignore, a threat too grave to dismiss. The war wolves, hardened by countless battles and tempered by the fires of loss, took it upon themselves to unveil this lurking menace. Our first step was to gather intelligence, to piece together the fragments of information we had gleaned from the xenomorph stronghold. We infiltrated their communication networks, intercepted their transmissions, and deciphered their encrypted messages. We also reached out to our allies, sharing our findings and seeking their assistance. The trail was faint, obscured by layers of deception and misdirection, but we were relentless in our pursuit. We followed it through the labyrinthine corridors of interstellar politics, through the murky depths of the criminal underworld, through the desolate wastelands of forgotten worlds. Our investigation led us to a shadowy organization known as the Cabal, a clandestine group of power brokers and manipulators who operated in the fringes of galactic society. They were rumored to have their fingers in every pie, their influence extending to the highest echelons of power. We discovered that the Cabal had been orchestrating the xenomorph invasions, using them as a tool to destabilize the Terran Republic and further their own nefarious agenda. They had been supplying the xenomorphs with advanced technology, enhancing their capabilities and making them even more deadly. Armed with this knowledge, we launched a series of covert operations, striking at the Cabal's assets and disrupting their operations. We sabotaged their facilities, assassinated their agents, and exposed their secrets to the public. The Cabal retaliated, unleashing their full arsenal of power and influence against us. They tried to discredit us, to isolate us, to destroy us. But we were too resilient, too determined, too resourceful. We fought back, tooth and nail, refusing to yield an inch. We rallied our allies, exposed the Cabal's treachery, and turned the tide of public opinion against them. The war against the Cabal was a different kind of war, a shadow war fought in the back alleys and dark corners of the galaxy. It was a war of espionage, sabotage, and propaganda. But it was no less brutal, no less deadly. We lost many good wolves in this war, their lives sacrificed on the altar of truth and justice. But their deaths were not in vain. They exposed the Cabal's corruption, their malevolence, their utter disregard for life. In the end, the Terran Republic rose up against the Cabal, their outrage fueled by our revelations. The Cabal's reign of terror was over, their power broken, their influence shattered. But our work was far from over. The xenomorphs were still out there, their threat undiminished. We knew that the Cabal was not the only enemy we had to face, that there were other forces at play, other threats lurking in the shadows. We were the war wolves, the guardians of the Terran Republic, the protectors of the innocent. We would continue to fight, to hunt, to kill, until the galaxy was safe, until all threats were eliminated. The fall of the Cabal didn't mark the end of our war, but rather a shift in its focus. With the puppet masters exposed, we turned our attention to the other players on this galactic chessboard. The xenomorphs, despite their losses, were still a formidable threat, but they were no longer our sole concern. Our intelligence network, strengthened by the Cabal's secrets, uncovered whispers of a new power rising in the galactic rim, a force far more insidious and calculating than the mindless xenomorphs or the power-hungry Cabal. This new enemy was known only as the Architects, a mysterious race shrouded in secrecy and myth. The Architects were said to be ancient, possessing knowledge and technology that dwarfed anything known to the Terran Republic. They were believed to be the creators of the xenomorphs, having engineered them as biological weapons for unknown purposes. We delved deeper into the Architects' history, their motivations, their ultimate goals. We consulted with ancient alien races, deciphered long-lost texts, and explored the ruins of forgotten civilizations. We pieced together a fragmented picture of a race obsessed with control, with shaping the destiny of the galaxy according to their own twisted vision. The Architects saw themselves as the architects of evolution, the arbiters of destiny. They believed that the galaxy was theirs to mold, that all other races were mere tools to be used and discarded at their whim. The war wolves, with our unique blend of human tenacity and wolfish ferocity, were a thorn in their side, an obstacle to their grand design. They saw us as an anomaly, a threat to their control, and they were determined to eliminate us. The war against the Architects was a war fought on multiple fronts, a war of intelligence, technology, and ideology. We battled their agents in the shadows, sabotaged their operations, and disrupted their plans. We also engaged them in the digital realm, hacking into their networks, stealing their secrets, and exposing their lies. But the Architects were a cunning and resourceful enemy. They were always one step ahead, always able to anticipate our moves and counter our attacks. They were masters of manipulation, sowing discord and distrust among our allies, and using propaganda to turn public opinion against us. We suffered setbacks, losses, betrayals. But we never wavered, never faltered. We were war wolves, and we would fight to the bitter end. We would not rest until the Architects were defeated, their threat neutralized, their reign of terror ended. This new war was a test of our strength, our resilience, our resolve. It was a war that would push us to the brink, that would challenge everything we believed in. But we were ready for it. We were war wolves, and we would not be denied. The Architects were an enemy unlike any we had ever faced before. They were not creatures of flesh and blood, but of pure intellect and cold calculation. Their weapons were not guns and blades, but manipulation, deception, and psychological warfare. They were masters of the long game, their plans spanning generations, their influence reaching into every corner of the galaxy. Our war against them was a war of shadows, fought in the back rooms of power, in the depths of cyberspace, in the minds of the masses. It was a war of whispers and rumors, of coded messages and hidden agendas. We infiltrated their networks, planting viruses and stealing data. We sowed discord among their ranks, turning their agents against each other. We exposed their lies, their manipulations, their crimes against sentient life. But the Architects were always one step ahead, always able to adapt and evolve. They countered our every move, thwarted our every plan. They were like a hydra, cutting off one head only to have two more grow in its place. We suffered losses, both physical and psychological. We lost brothers and sisters in arms, their lives snuffed out by the architect's ruthless machinations. We also lost our faith, our hope, our sense of purpose. But we never gave up. We were war wolves, and we would fight to the bitter end. We would not let the architects win, not while a single breath remained in our bodies. And then, a breakthrough. Deep within the labyrinthine depths of an ancient alien archive, we discovered a hidden truth, a secret that could turn the tide of the war. The architects, for all their power and intelligence, had a fatal flaw, a weakness that could be exploited. We learned that the architects were not the true masters of the galaxy. They were merely servants, pawns of a far more ancient and powerful entity, a being of unimaginable power and malice. This entity, known only as the Ancient One, was the true architect of the galaxy, the one who had shaped its destiny for eons. The architects were merely its tools, its instruments of destruction. Armed with this knowledge, we devised a daring plan, a desperate gamble that could either save the galaxy or doom it forever. We would confront the Ancient One, expose its existence to the galaxy, and rally all sentient beings against it. It was a risky plan, a suicidal mission, but we had no other choice. The fate of the galaxy rested on our shoulders, and we would not fail. We assembled a strike team, the best of the best, the most skilled and experienced war wolves. We equipped them with the most advanced weapons and technology, and sent them on a one-way mission to the heart of the Ancient One's domain. They disappeared into the unknown, their fate uncertain, their mission shrouded in secrecy. And then, silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. We heard nothing from the strike team, no transmissions, no signals, no signs of life. We feared the worst, but we dared not give up hope. We continued our fight against the architects, our resolve strengthened by the knowledge that our brothers and sisters were out there, somewhere, fighting for the future of the galaxy. And then, one day, a message. A single cryptic transmission, originating from deep within the heart of the Ancient One's domain. "We have found it," the message said. "The source of the Ancient One's power. The key to its destruction." But before we could decipher the message, the transmission was cut off. We were left with more questions than answers, our hopes raised and our fears amplified. What had the strike team found? What was the source of the Ancient One's power? And how could we use it to destroy it? The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the war wolves were once again at the forefront of the fight.